Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Pleasure to have your company. My name's Colin. Welcome. We haven't started yet. Now we're starting. We start on the hour. I like to open up early, a little bit early, so that people have a chance to log in. Also, I've got our friends on YouTube. Thank you, everyone on YouTube, for joining me today. This is writing for medicine in the OET with E2 language. Anytime you want to make a comment on Zoom, please use the chat box rather than the Q&A, because I tend to ignore the Q&A. Hello to the UK. I know it's a little bit late for you because your clocks went forward and ours went back. I think we're working on that. Let's see what happens as a result. But anyway, at the moment it's 8 in the morning here, so I imagine that's 11. Is it 11 p.m. in the UK? Something like that. Anyway. Oh, well, good. I'm glad it's worth staying up for. Anyway, 11 o'clock. It's not like you're doing anything else, although I think probably quite a few of you are involved in the whole pandemic thing because you're all medical people. Anyway, if you are, thank you for your service. Yeah, I know it's 11 o'clock. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe we can bring it a little bit earlier. Sweet. Oh, Pakistan. Goodness me, middle of the night. Well, thank you for your dedication. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for coming. This is OET Writing for Medicine. A few things to tell you before we kick. We have a new voucher code, Better Together 15, with an inappropriate picture at the bottom of people holding hands. So please don't hold hands with strangers. 6 feet or 2 meters, which is more than 6 feet, but 2 meters to be safe. Better Together 15 will get you $15 US off the upgrade or package of your choosing. Definitely worth doing, and it's a pleasure to have you here at E2 Language. We offer at E2 Language writing feedback. It takes a day or two to get your stuff back, but it will have been read, assessed, and evaluated by one of our team, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. It's totes amaze. We also have one-on-one tutorials. They're done through Zoom, like everything else is done through Zoom nowadays anyway. Maybe think about doing one of those. You get to cover whatever aspect, excuse me, let me turn that light on, whatever aspect of the OET you're finding particularly challenging, or I don't know, which is of interest to you. One or two, I think, is fine. So whether it is writing, as we're discussing today, or reading, or listening, or speaking, you decide what you want to do, and you can have a very meaningful, intense one-on-one tutorial for 45 minutes. And the other thing that we offer here at E2 Language is the mini mock test. Mini mock test is a 2-hour entirely done online experience where you get to well, basically do a test. So I was going to try and make an equivalent with the OET. Of course, the OET is a pen and paper test, unlike the online experience that we offer at E2 Language, but it's very comprehensive, very meaningful. I think you'll get a great deal out of it. Ray, believe me, I do read the YouTube chat as well, so you can ask me questions. It's just that I've got 2 windows to look at, so I do make my eyes go across both chats, but it's hard because I'm a man and that's multitasking. So if you do want to ask me a question and you're on YouTube, I do look at those. Don't think that I don't. I care about you as much as anyone else. But I've only got 1 pair of eyes, and I'm a bit thick. Anyway, so think about doing the mini mock test, and I think you'll get a great deal out of it. Okay. Thank you, wherever you may be. Try not to use the Q&A. If you want to do the mini mock test, I'm afraid you're going to have to check that online. I don't want to give you the incorrect information. And yeah, so I think you get a lot out of it, but I'm afraid I won't give you the price because I'm not sure. Okay. My pleasure, Ray. All right, so let's move on then to today's class. In today's class, we will be testing your English with a quiz. We'll be learning a method for completing the writing task. We'll be analyzing the task. We'll be selecting relevant case notes, planning out your writing, writing the start of the letter, writing the introductory paragraph and the request paragraph, looking at a model of that letter and then checking out the criteria before we test you again with a little quiz. Okay, yeah, I think Ray, I think you'll enjoy the mini mock test. So that's what we're doing today. Seems like a lot to get through, but it's worth it. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Have a pen and paper handy, as you will on the day of the test as well, to make notes. Just making notes, I think, in the chat box probably, well, if you want to, that's fine. I'd like to see your thinking. But pen and paper is a useful thing to have. We'll do a quiz in a moment, but before we do, let's take a little review of formal language. Formal language. You'll notice phrasal verbs are commonly used in spoken English. And I know a lot of you, depending on your language group, you do find it's very hard to take on phrasal verbs. You have to treat it like new vocabulary. But something worth noting is phrasal verbs are generally what we would, I suppose, think of as a new word. And it's not logical and it's very annoying. So take up and take down isn't necessarily an opposite, for example. But these here are a good list of commonly used phrasal verbs. If you want to take a screenshot of this, I would urge you to do so now. But yes, we use them when we speak. We try and avoid them when we write, okay? Because we do associate them with being slightly less formal. What I'd like you to do is have a look at these two sentences at the bottom here, identify the phrasal verbs, and try and make it a little bit more formal. Okay, I'll be quiet. Okay, thank you. Nicely done. Okay, well identified, people. Okay, so what have we got there? After fainting due to severe dehydration, the man's wife stayed with him until the ambulance arrived. You'll notice showed up instead of arrived, passing out instead of fainted. I prefer exercising on an empty stomach because it helps me lose the fat faster. I remember when we used to go out and do that, but anyway, there you go, working out and get rid of, exercising and lose. Thank you very much for your answers. Let's have a look now for 30 seconds at these phrasal verbs with their formal relative on the right-hand side. Can you please do the connections? You've got 30 seconds, okay? Excellent, thanks for your observations. Let's have a look then. Number one, go through is A, experience, didn't need to do anything there. Number two, deal with is D, resolve. Number three, cut back on is E, reduce. Number four, figure out is C, find a solution. And number five, get back to is B, return. Well done, thank you everybody. So now we have a little quiz. You have a minute to do this. Find the phrasal verbs in each of these 5 sentences and then replace them with the best word from the blue box, or should I say the box with letters in blue. You get what I mean, on the right-hand side there. And of course, adjust if it needs adjusting, please. All right, see you in a minute. Nice. Okay. Thank you. Let's have a look. The dietitian suggested that I reduce saturated fats. Following a heart attack, you need at least 4 weeks rest before you can return to work. The chemist gave me some pills that should resolve my constipation. Awesome. Number 4, even after 3 visits to the GP, she couldn't find a solution to what was wrong with me. Oh. And number 5, bone marrow transplant is not something I would want anyone else to experience. Okay, unless of course it was a matter of life and death. So let's take an overview then of the OET writing. The writing test requires you to read and analyze the task, to read and analyze case notes, and to write a letter of referral, of discharge, or transfer. In the past, in the now rather distant past, there used to be other kinds of letter. They don't exist no more. Okay, so if you're working with some khaki old material that you found on WeChat or WhatsApp, chuck it in the bin. Referral, discharge, or transfer is what you're looking for. The 45 minutes is divided into two fairly clear segments: reading time of 5 minutes and writing time of 40. Let me emphasize, my friends, I know you're all very intelligent, highly educated and motivated people. Treat the first 5 minutes like the reading comprehension exercise it is. You need to read the task, work out who you're writing the letter to and what action they need to take. Then you need to read the case notes to understand key facts about the patient's conditions. The headings and subheadings are there to guide you. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to use something or even anything at all from a heading or a subheading. That's up to you. That's why I said this is reading comprehension. Then you will identify information that's relevant. You will decide if it's highly relevant or even quite relevant. If it has any relevance at all, it will go in your letter. Who decides if it's relevant? You do. Okay, you may be lucky and end up with a case about somebody with breathing difficulties and you're a pulmonologist. Or you may end up with somebody who's got diabetes, but you are an OBGYN. Well, it doesn't matter. No one cares how good you are at doing your job as a doctor. And I must emphasize this. It is the occupational English test. English being the emphasis, I'm emphasizing the word English, not I'm a great doctor test. I don't know if it's reassuring or disturbing for you to know that even if you're not a very good doctor, and I'm sure you're all brilliant, you can pass the OET. Okay, don't forget this is an English test. They do it with a lot of consultation with medical professionals, but it is a test for English. All right, so treat the first 5 minutes like a reading comprehension exercise, and I think then you'll feel a lot more comfortable about the next 40 minutes, which starts with you planning 3, 4, or 5 short paragraphs. However many paragraphs, that's up to you. I find that when I do these as a task, I end up doing 4 or 5, but that's not as a rule. That's just how I end up writing, is my style. 3 or 4 or 5, it's all good. And you should be planning those for around about 5 minutes and then spending the next 30 to 35 minutes on your 180 to 200 word response. Okay, so that's how it goes. Today we're only focused on the introduction and the request. So the 5 minutes of reading time, smiley face. You need to analyze the task to decide who you are writing the letter to, what action that person needs to take, what key information they require in order to do their job properly, and what prior knowledge they have of the patient. You then take the time to read the case notes and work out what is relevant, what is repeated but also relevant. Why do we make that distinction? Because it could be that there's a piece of information which does need to be mentioned. I don't know, it could be something simple like the patient is married. And that could come up in 2 or even 3 different places. He mentions his wife, he mentions the fact that he's married, it mentions that he lives with his wife. Just, I don't need to know that 3 times. Probably once is enough. But it does, the information needs to be included in the letter, but I just need to be aware about not saying it more than once necessarily. See? So we make that distinction. So what is relevant, what's repeated and relevant, and then what is not relevant at all. Okay. Anyway, here is the task for this week. I'd like you to answer these 4 questions. Who am I writing this letter to? What action do I need the reader to take? What does the reader of this letter need to know? And what does the reader of this letter already know? You're going to take a minute to do that. All right, see you in a minute. Okay. He knows nothing. Okay. It's interesting, by the way, when you read the name of the person receiving this letter, did you read it as a man or a woman? Because, yeah, but it could be Jan, couldn't it? It's either Jan or Jan. Doesn't matter. It's a doctor. Doctor's a doctor's a doctor. There you go. So let's have a look. Let's answer these questions then. Who am I writing to? A pulmonologist. What action do I want the reader of this letter to take? Further assessment and evaluation. What does the reader need to know? The patient's needs. And what does the reader already know? The answer is no prior knowledge. So, Dr. Jan or Dr. Jan, it's interesting. Could be Arthur or... Now you're going to look at the reading case notes, all of them, okay? And you're going to then make that distinction between what is relevant, what's repeated and relevant, and what's not relevant at all. Before you do, please be aware that we make a distinction here in the criteria. For content, to get top marks, all of the key information has been included and nothing important has been left out. And for conciseness and clarity, no irrelevant information has been included. Let me just emphasize this again. Remember, this is the 5 minutes of reading comprehension time. You will make your choices about what you believe to be relevant, repeated and relevant, and not relevant at all. You can justify it to yourself. Excellent. Include it. And we will probably have a conversation once I've shared my organized case notes with you, and you'll say, oh, Colin, why did you include this? Or why didn't you include that? Well, it's a conversation we can have. But let's give you 5 minutes now to organize the case notes. I will be quiet and I'll see you soon. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. And thank you for those of you who, excellent, some of you who really put in a lot of notes there. Thank you very much. Good. All right, let's have a look then. In red now, the information which is relevant, as you'll see. Social history, family history, some medical background, a bit of medication there, a little bit of the subjective, really very little bit, and all of the treatment plan. But check out repeated. All of the objective, subjective, objective, subjective from those 2 visits. A little bit more about medications and a tiny bit more there, shortness of breath. Okay, you may at this point want to do 2 things. First of all, you may want to take a screenshot. I think you might find that useful. And yes, you can underline relevant notes during reading time in the actual test. So if you want to take a screenshot, by all means, go ahead and do so. And the other thing that people generally like to do at this point is complain that I've made bad decisions. And that's fine. I'm not a doctor, and most of you are. So if you want to ask me and say, why? Fever, cough, shortness of breath. Yes, it's there. So Eduardo, let me emphasize, why do you need to know about repeated information? So as you can see, medical background, we have shortness of breath, and then information, subjective information on the 27th of February, for example, we have shortness of breath. So we also have that as subjective information on the 25th. Okay, it's relevant, the shortness of breath. I just don't need to mention it 3 times. I don't need to mention, regarding Ms. Forrest's medical background, she has shortness of breath in damp weather. On the 25th of February, she presented with shortness of breath. And again, on the 27th, she presented with shortness of breath. That would be a little bit daft, for want of a better word. So that's why we make sure that we cover it, because it needs to be included. But we want to make sure that we've covered it appropriately, rather than just repeating ourselves like lunatics. There you go. I think you've had a chance now to take a screenshot. I'm going to move on. Okay, nice one. If it will let me. Yeah. 40 minutes of writing time. Let me just say a couple of things. First of all, you've got to be flexible in the OET. Don't go in with a fixed idea that, oh, I'm just going to do it this way because this is the way that it needs to be done. That's not how it works in the OET. Many of you, I think, have come from other English tests. I won't mention them. Why is fever repeated? Well, okay, you'll see, Young. I'd like to look at my letter and then see if it makes sense in that respect. If you come from the IELTS, and I'll name it and shame it, the approach to the IELTS is very, very different. Please don't come to the OET and think, well, the OET is just IELTS for doctors. It's not. The approach to the writing in the OET is very much not the IELTS approach to writing. This is not to invalidate the IELTS approach to writing. It's absolutely valid for the IELTS. It's not valid for the OET. Be flexible. Come in with an open mind. The number of paragraphs may vary. Your approach may vary. And something I always say is, if I gave a writing task like the Susan Forrest case note to 10 excellent candidates, I would probably end up with 10 excellent pieces of writing, which are non-identical. So please be flexible. The other thing, don't forget that we have the voucher code Better Together 15. Don't other people like these people are, but Better Together 15 will get you an upgrade at a discount, and the package at a discount. Isn't that exciting? So today the writing structure is as follows. I think it's a 5-paragraph structure. We're only concerned with the introductory sentence or paragraph, which is usually a short paragraph, and the request paragraph, which can vary in length depending on the case notes. So those are the 2 that we're actually concerned about today. Let's talk, though, first about planning and writing, the way that we address the recipient. And there's an outline for that. We'll talk about that in a moment. The way that you take notes and plan, it's up to you to decide how many paragraphs are going to go into the letter, and it's up to you to decide what information will go into each paragraph. It's got to make sense, okay? And then when you write, you will continually check the relevance, the importance of the work that you're producing, and do leave a few minutes at the end to check your work, okay? Checking your work is very important. It can help save you important points, smiley face. So the letter outline is as follows. You start with the title and full name of the recipient at the top of the letter, then their job title, and then the full address. After that, you write the date. Which date? Why? The date of the test. Don't start messing about and thinking, oh, these case notes make it clear that this is the 27th of July. Don't worry about it. Just put the date of the test. Then you address the letter, excuse me, dear Dr. Mr. Mrs. Ms, and their surname, their family name, and then the reference line. So re, and then Mr. Mrs. Ms, whoever it is, their full name, and then their age or their date of birth. My preference on date, and it's only a preference because it's stylistically interesting, is for the 8-number date format. So I've even forgotten the date. Was it the 10th? 10/04/2020 would be today's date, assuming it is the 10th. What you would then do is have a consistency, because you'll have sometimes several dates: date of birth, date of the letter, date of presentation, date of next appointment, whatever it might be. So if you've got different sorts of date formats, it can be a little bit distracting. It won't really have a massive impact on your score. It's just for consistency's sake. You write the letter. At the end, you write either yours sincerely or yours faithfully. It doesn't really matter. Tradition states, let me say, convention states yours faithfully is written to somebody whose name you do not know. So, dear sir, madam, would be yours faithfully, and yours sincerely, dear Dr. Brown. And then just write the word doctor. A couple of people are asking in the chat whether or not the same principles apply to, let's say, writing for a nurse as writing for medicine. Yes. Okay. Absolutely. That's all I would say about that. And I know there's a lot of people here also in what we might call minority professions: physiotherapy, OT, pharmacy, and so on. Yeah, it's, you know, the principles remain the same. Okay. So what I'd like you to do now is to take 90 seconds to write the letter outline. All the information you need to do it is there on the left-hand side. See you in a minute and a half. Thank you, and thank you everyone for thanks all for your work. Generally, I'd put the address on different lines. So you'll see here, Dr. Justine Clinic, New Line, 393 Victoria Road, New Line, Richmond. And then the date, 06062019. Then dear Dr. Walker, comma. Then the reference line, re Mrs. Susan Forrest, date of birth, 1905-97. You'll see that that is a 6-number, not an 8-number format, whatever. Then go through the letter, and then it says yours sincerely, Doctor. Couple of things let me suggest. The date can go above Dr. Jan Walker or below Richmond. The reference line can go above dear Dr. Walker or below it. It really doesn't matter. Those are relatively minor issues. After the patient's name, should you put a comma or full stop? I would put comma or nothing. But again, as they say in some parts of the world, you are arguing the sex of the angels. This is not the thing that will get you a B or a C. Do you see what I'm saying? If you're worried about whether or not there should be a dot after the patient's name there, your issues are going to be deeper elsewhere. So yeah, don't sweat the small stuff, people. Can I just use my name instead of just doctor? Oh, that's dangerous. Of course you can. I'm sure if you sign the letter Mickey Mouse, it wouldn't be a problem either. It may even make the examiner laugh. I don't know that I would counsel you to do that. I would just write the word doctor. But yeah, Dr. H. Simpson, why not? Doesn't matter. Just write doctor, but you can write your name. Okay, cool. Thank you everyone for your input there. That's very interesting. And it's the guts here: the introduction, first presentation, second presentation, background information, and the request action. People always ask about children. What do I do if it's a child? Use the child's name. Okay, it's fine. Don't worry about don't obsess about the title. It's fine. Master hasn't been used since the 60s, as far as I can tell. I think when I was a very, very small child, a long time ago, I received my first building society account back in the time, and I would receive it Master Colin, Master. It's very old-fashioned, don't worry. Just write the name of the child. So if it's referring to a baby or a little child, you just write Peter Finch, date of birth. Okay? Again, don't worry too much about it. I think there's a tendency, and I understand it, there's a tendency to worry about the wrong sorts of things. The questions you're asking me are not unimportant. They're just, I would say marginal to your getting a top score. So, planning and checking the case notes. You will decide how many paragraphs are going in the letter, and you will decide what information will go into each of those paragraphs. Today, we're only concerned about the introduction and the request. In the introduction, what's the key information the recipient needs? Keep it brief. And in the request, express your appreciation and restate what you want the recipient to do. Okay, so that's the information. Am I being rude? I'm not being rude. Do you think I'm being rude? I was being polite. Be polite all the time. Be polite, of course. So you're only really concerned about now the information for the introduction and for the request. Ah, that was a smiley face. That's fine. No, I'm not being rude. So find the information. You've got 90 seconds now with those case notes to find the information. I smile all the time inside. These are difficult times, so I'm trying to be serious outside. Okay. Good luck. Find the information for the request and the introduction. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so here are my notes. Paying attention, please. What we've got is the introduction has the patient details, the diagnosis, and the requirement there. Susan Forrest, community-acquired pneumonia, and assessment and evaluation. In general, what I aim for in the introduction is who's the patient, what's the main issue, and why am I writing to you? And then for the request, fairly straightforward, the treatment plan, confirm diagnosis, provide CT scan, review medication, and discuss smoking. So what we're going to do is write the introduction, okay? So the language you might want to use include things like Ms. Jones was recently hospitalized, Mr. Smith will be discharged or transferred, Mr. Smith requires or Mr. Smith is in need of. On the 5th of March 2017, Mr. Smith presented to. Okay, there's the information. You've got 2 minutes to write the introduction. Good luck. Okay, thank you, and thank you very much for your contributions. Here's just an example. As I say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm writing to refer Ms. Forrest, who may have contracted community-acquired pneumonia, for further assessment and evaluation of her condition. You'll notice, please, I've used commas because this is non-defining information about Ms. Forrest, okay, who may have contracted community-acquired pneumonia, okay? Nice. And now let's do the request. Language you may want to use includes kindly, please, and I would be grateful. So you've now got 2 minutes using the information from the treatment plan to write the request. All right, good luck. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for your contributions. Here's mine. It would be greatly appreciated if you could confirm the diagnosis as well as submitting Ms. Forrest for a CT scan. Further, please review her current medication in addition to reinforcing the benefits of quitting smoking. Okay, there you go. And there's the whole letter. So what you may want to do now is take a picture, take a screenshot. Why not? Okay, I think you'll find it very, very useful. Compare the letter, obviously, to the case notes, which I'd organized previously for you. Okay. Biggest paragraph there is the third paragraph. Okay, the development of the evolution of the case. All right. Cool. All right. Screenshot time is over. Let's move on and go back to the criteria: genre and style, and organization and layout specifically. So what we've got is abbreviations and polite language, which you need to be appropriate for the context. And for organization and layout, it has to be clear, it has to be logical. So here we have abbreviations. We don't write using these contractions like I'm, there, who's, that'll, wouldn't, and so on. But take a picture, it's useful to know what they are and how they're used. But because this is a formal piece of writing, you won't be using them. But again, if you want, by all means, go and take a screenshot because we're going to move on. Because look at this. These two sentences need to be made more formal. Can you have a go at making those more formal, please? Thanks. Yeah, exactly. Sheila was not feeling well, so she did not attend the clinic. And visitors should not make too much noise on the ward because it is not very respectful of the patients. Okay, so moving on with appropriate language, phrasal verbs. Okay, they're also called multi-word verbs. Typically, it's a verb plus a preposition, but sometimes it can be a little bit more substantial. Here are some common phrasal verbs, some of which you may use, some of which you may know. Have a look at this list. As I said before, what you're generally trying to avoid doing is using them in your writing, okay? Because phrasal verbs are a less formal use of language. So rather than saying bring up, you'll say mentioned. Rather than saying go over, you'd say review. Rather than set up, you'd say arrange or begin. Get the idea? So try not to engage in using phrasal verbs when you're writing. Check this out, please. Find the phrasal verbs in these two sentences and make the language a bit more formal, if you don't mind. Can you use them in speaking? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you should use them in the speaking. Speaking is not formal. That's one of the main differences between the writing and the speaking in this test. All right, find the phrasal verbs, make them more formal, please. Thank you. All right, let's have a look then. After fainting due to severe dehydration, the man's wife stayed with him until the ambulance arrived. And I prefer exercising on an empty stomach because it helps me lose the fat faster. Okay. So, slang words, another thing. You won't be using these. And there's a couple on this list that, frankly, I don't know why they're there. I mean, a good example is the word bee's knees. I don't know that I've used the word bee's knees or the words bee's knees unironically. Some may be familiar to you. For example, all set for ready, reckons instead of believes, wanna instead of want to. But as you see, and also, by the way, binging. Binging isn't so much of an informal or slang term because binging is often used, for example, for bulimics. They binge eat, meaning eating excessively before purging. So binging and purging. So there you have it. What's the slang in these sentences? And try to make it a little bit more formal. It does include that expression, bee's knees. If you want to know a more commonly used term instead of bee's knees, it's a part of a dog's anatomy that I cannot mention, but certainly that's in the UK. Excellent. Kind of is, yes. Somewhat is better than kind of. Somewhat is okay. So let's have a look then. Dr. Brown believes the new medication is the best available. A couple of you try guessing what the term in English is. I won't say it because it's too rude, but it's the dog's something. And number two, you may find that your knee feels somewhat swollen after walking, but you will recover. A little bit of Cockney rhyming slang coming through there as well. And again, commonly used in the UK. Well done. Absolutely. Get over, recover. Well done. Okay, so now you've got your quiz. What I'd like you to do, this is about organization. You've got, no, don't say the bee's knees. You've got a paragraph which is not in order, it's out of order. Request paragraph. What I'd like you to do is put it back into the correct order. You've got 2 minutes to do so. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Well done. There we go. Mr. Smith, C is first. Now requires physiotherapy to restore full range of motion to his right leg. C is followed by B. Being a builder's labourer, he needs to be in peak physical shape before he can return to work. Then D. Bear in mind, he lives in a third-floor apartment with no elevator, so he would prefer a home visit to avoid having to negotiate the stairs. And then A. If this arrangement is possible, he has agreed to be flexible according to the times of the sessions. And Ray, you did get the expression correct on YouTube. Thank you. No more bee's knees. Use that one instead. All right then. Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's it, my friends, for the day. It's been a fruitful experience. For more information, go to our platform. If you're on YouTube, think about signing up. It's very, very much worthwhile. And we have that special offer. I'll remind you of the special offer in a moment. The official OET website is worth checking on a regular basis, not least because test dates have become a little bit fluid in the pandemic. Podcasts, be eclectic in your habits for the podcasts, because there's a variety of accents in the actual test. So BBC from the UK, ABC in Australia, CBC in Canada, and NPR in the United States are all excellent sources of very high quality health-related podcasts. For reading, Science Daily is amazing. Please, Ray, don't say bee's knees. Science Daily is amazing and it's free, and it's especially useful for reading in general, but reading Part C, I think, in particular. And if you've got any doubts, go to help.et2language.com and all of your dreams will be answered, all of them, just the ones related to questions about the test. Don't get the voucher code of Better Together, 15. That'll get you $15 off. What language use politely request endoscopy from gastrologist? I'd be grateful if you could, something like that. For me, writing itself is impolite. No. I remember talking years ago to a neurologist who said, I won't do anything. The reason I chose neurology was because brains don't smell. She said, I won't do anything that involves an orifice. So endoscopy and gastrology, yes, it's all very smelly, I imagine, but you know, wear a mask and what do you put, Vicks Vapor Rub under your nose so you don't have to breathe it all in. But yes, don't worry, Martin, that's fine. I'd be grateful if you could. So you want to do the request question again? Yeah, let me go back. As you see, I'm going back. I'm glad you found my class beneficial. There you go. There's the request. Any tips for writing a letter when there's multiple dates? Yes, Eduardo. If there are multiple presenting dates, what I would recommend you do is think about it holistically. And I don't mean that in a medical way. If there are 4 presenting dates, and what you have generally over 4 presenting dates is a deterioration or an evolution of the patient's condition, you could say, Mr. Thompson presented 5 times over the last 8 weeks with worsening symptoms of this and that, something like that. I think that would work, because it's like telling a specialist, yeah, you're right. No, but you're not telling them how to do their job. You're putting in a request for something. Don't forget, for example, in Australia, if I want to go to for a colonoscopy, if I need a colonoscopy, I don't just turn up to the colonoscopy shop. I go to my GP, and the GP then will refer me. Okay, so the GP would be writing that letter, not saying how to do it, just that it is required. Accompanied by would be the collocation. If there's a lot of medicine in case notes, I think it's okay for you to write a complete list of Mr. Brown's medication that accompanies this letter. But that's rare. Generally speaking, that won't be the case. I know that a few weeks ago we did a letter of transfer where there was a lot of medication, in which case it would have been, a massive paragraph just explaining all the medication, which is relevant for the doctor receiving the letter in that particular case. If that's the case, that's what I would do. But on the whole, that's not a problem for you. Next session for writing is next week. We do these every week. Writing assessments, why don't you write a suggestion? I'll pass it on, but by all means you can write into E2 and say it would be great if you have special office on writing assessments. Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for your questions. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to go and have a cup of tea. List of medication has to be written only if it's bearable. So imagine if we have I don't know, corticosteroids and albuterol inhaler and Symbicort, something like that. No, it doesn't have to be at the end of the letter. I would generally not put that information at the end of the letter. I put it in the body of the letter. But remember, the length of the letter doesn't change. You've got to think about the way that a letter generally evolves. We start with the introduction. Who's the patient? What's the main issue? Why am I writing to you? Generally, but not always, you then put how the patient presented, how they were tested, if it was relevant, and how they were treated. Then you might include information about relevant medical and social background for that particular patient. Because you're talking about the person receiving the letter needing to understand everything there is, so that when they get to that line, which says, please do not hesitate to contact me, should you require any further information, that one. Any further information that you can basically know that they won't call you. So you've covered everything. Okay. All right, everyone, I'm going to go. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions and for your participation. Have a very, very nice weekend. It is Easter weekend, and today is officially a public holiday. What difference that makes to anything, I do not know. But if you're having a public holiday on Good Friday, enjoy. And if you are indeed on the front lines of the corona crisis, thank you for your service. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.